right. What's going on, guys? Madlab here. I am going to give you a few minutes for a couple more people to pile in. I don't know how many people are going to be here for this. Just for a matter of fact, the playoffs just started. You got Bellator going on. So this is something we're doing a little bit different. You'll be able to go back and watch it for the people, but for time reasons, I'm doing it live now. I'll explain to you what exactly we're doing here, what we're possibly going to do going forward. Just give it a couple minutes for a couple more people to pile in, then we'll start. All right, so I'm just going to explain a little bit about what we're doing here. So basically, as you guys know, Fantasy Lab sends out an email every week with my full breakdown. They send out, the full main event breakdown, if I like a bet, if what I like for DraftKings, my hedge weight, and such like that. So basically, what we're doing here now is we're going to do it live. And I'm going to answer some of your questions about the main event. I can't obviously give you certain things because we do have our site, which gives our people behind the paywall all our content. But I want to not only talk about the main event tonight, I want to teach you guys a little bit about DraftKings in general, how to play, what contests that you should be playing in, depending on the money size that you're doing, how to gauge pricing mismatches, looking for deadlines and stuff like that. So that's basically what we're going to be doing going forward. Like I said, we got the playoffs going on right now. We got Bellator on right now. So, if you got to come back and watch it, come back and watch it. Let's talk about the main event. You got Adesanya versus Vettori. This is a fight that was 3 years ago. So a lot of people are looking at it, and what are they saying? They're talking about how Vettori looked so much better, and it was a split decision, and it was such a great fight. And yada, 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 and just pretty much how he has raised his levels in his progressions, which is all true, right? But if he's raised his level in his progression, so has Adesanya. He hasn't been sitting on his couch. He hasn't been really fighting nobody. The guy's gained the world title. He has fought some of the greatest fighters out there. He has one glitch in his radar. Obviously, he went up to 205 to fight Jan Blachowicz, and you just saw a clear differential in size, power, and physicality, like an intimidation factor with his physicality. And he took it to Izzy, and that's all fine and great. But now he's back where he's supposed to be, and he still does have the strap, and he still is the champion. He's still extremely dangerous. And I do understand that there is a blueprint on him. Okay, there is a blueprint on him, and the blueprint is to wrestle, and the blueprint is to take him down. Easier said than done. It's easier said than done. When you got a guy who I like to call a marksman, he's really, really a clear marksman. When you understand range and you understand distance and you understand, certain combinations to keep people off you, it's not as easy to shoot in on somebody. It's not as easy just to sit there and shoot in on somebody. You have to do it very strategically. When you look at somebody like Vettori, now I'm going to be honest with you, there was a portion of me that I wanted to pick Vettori very bad in this fight for a multitude of reasons. One reason is he's a countryman of mine. I'm Italian. Anthony's Italian, so we would love to see one of our countrymen win the strap. Another is that the guy has shown clear durability. He has shown good cardio. He's shown, a willingness to win. He's very passionate about what he does. He trains over here in Huntington Beach by me with Rafael Cordero and some really, really good guys. He's doing all the right things to be a better fighter, and I like that. The one knock I have on Marvin Vettori is he's extremely emotional. And when you take a fighter like that, and if you can extract the emotion out of him, I really thought that Rafael Cordero was going to be able to do this because he does train with some very laid-back, timid personalities. Kelvin Gastelum is one of them, just a very laid-back, timid personality. very calm and cool. But when he gets in there, he's kind of a different person. So, I really, really was sitting on that. And when the press conference was going on, that's what I really wanted to watch. I wanted to see how is Marvin Vettori going to act. And he acted very well. I mean, he was sitting there, he had the suit on, he wasn't letting things get to him, he was putting the sunglasses on. And I was actually impressed because you saw what Izzy was trying to do. He was trying to extract that hot temper out of Vettori. Couldn't get it out of him. I started to turn. I got to be honest with you. I was like, maybe this kid is dialed in. Maybe this kid has gotten this down now to the point where he is going to be calm, collective. He's going to really be able to dictate what he does in there. He's not going to be thinking off emotions. He's going to be thinking off a blueprint, which is extremely important. About 2 minutes before the press conference end, he just blows his fucking cork. The guy blows his cork. He starts kicking chairs, starts screaming and yelling. And that's when I said, Izzy won the first fight. He got into his head already. He won the first fight. Talking about his clothes. Why would you get so pissed off someone talking about your clothes? Talking about his clothes, talking about how he can't dress. He literally snapped. You could see he was bottling it up for a long time during that press conference. He was trying to stay cool, trying to hold his emotions in. And Izzy was poking him to see if he can pull it out of him, and he did. That's a problem when you fight. And especially a problem when you fight somebody like Izzy. Because when you fight somebody like Izzy, who's going to sit at range and he's going to pick you apart and he's going to tap you. He's not going to hit you hard. He's going to touch you. And the more he touches you, it's almost like a fly. You start getting aggravated. And when he's talking to you in there, and he's raising his hands in there, and he's doing all these crazy things in there, that can be something that extracts that. So the way I see this fight going is I see Vettori having success. And there's two clear paths here. I mean, there's no other way for either fighter. There's two clear paths here. Marvin Vettori's got to get it on his hips early and often. Period. End. He's got to get on his hips early and often. He has to, make this a dirty, dirty street fight, grinding fight, because he's a good athlete, but he's not the athlete of Adesanya. So he's going to have to drag this to the ground. He's going to have to grapple. He's going to have to really, really just make him defend two levels. If he sits there and he stands and he trades with him for one round, you're giving Izzy the confidence to stay and say, listen, I'm going to bait this guy to fight with me. I'm going to talk this guy into having a fist fight with me to the point where he's going to want to beat me at my own game. Because when you're an emotional fighter, that's what happens. You get hit, you get emotional, you're like, all right, I got to get you back real quick. Instead of sticking to your game plan, doing what you're supposed to do, they stray and they want to beat you at your own game, because at that point, it's a pride thing. So he can't get baited into that. He's got to stick to the game plan and take Izzy down and grind him out. If Izzy gets up, he's got to go back on his hips. He's got to take him, almost what Damian Maia does to all his opponents. He just, no matter what, if he's 5 for 20 for takedowns, he's going to continue to go to the well and go for takedowns. That's what he's going to have to do there. But when you do that, you're expending a lot of cardio. You're expending a lot of conditioning, a lot more than you would standing. So is he going to be able to do that over the course of 5 rounds? I don't think he's going to submit Izzy. I don't think he's going to knock Izzy out. So he's going to have to put on that kind of pace for 5 rounds, where Adesanya is going to have to obviously defend 2 levels, which is going to make him hesitant a little bit. So he's throwing 3 and 4s. He's probably going to throw 1 and 2s because he has to defend that level. What does Izzy want to do? It's quite simple. The guy's got to elude the takedowns. You're dealing with a bigger cage here. It's not the cage is going to be bigger, and that always benefits the striker. It's not the more consolidated cage where the grappler has more time, get in and trap you in certain corners. So Izzy has to fight long. He has to pick and choose his shots. He's got to just pick them apart, and he's got to frustrate him. He's got to do what he does. He's got to do what made him a marketing guy. You got to talk to him. You got to showboat him. You got to try to extract Reagan from The Exorcist out of him. That's basically what you got to do. You got to extract Reagan out of Vettori. And if you do, that comes along with a little bit of an adrenaline dump. That comes along with him going crazy, losing, position, shooting sloppy shots. And let me tell you something about Marvin Vettori. Offensively, he has graduated big time. Defensively, he has not. The guy is extremely hittable. So if he comes in and he's going right down the line, right down the center line, Izzy's got to time that, and he's got to hit him with 1 or 2. And maybe not hurt him, but sting him enough to say, listen, if you come in and you take a shot, you're going to get hit. That's going to make him need to do it from angles. He's going to have to create angles, which will frustrate him. We'll start taking sloppy shots. This is going to be a really, really, really good fight. But I just think that the size difference in the Jan Blachowicz fight and the strength difference was such a huge factor in that fight. I think it was. You got to remember, there's a reason why there's weight classes and there's divisions, right? So you could take a guy from 205. You say you take Thiago Santos or someone. You put take 205 and you bring him all the way up to heavyweight. That's a stark difference. As big as some of these guys look in their division, that is a stark difference. If you took Eric Anders and threw him up at heavyweight and made him fight a guy like Derek Lewis, he would get stuck. These are stark jumps. You know what I mean? That's a big jump for you. If you look at Izzy during the stare down in this fight, he looked big. He looked full. When you looked at him against Jan Blachowicz, he didn't look that big. He looked tall, but he actually looked skinny compared to Jan. Where in this fight, he looks like the bigger guy. He looks like the bigger fighter. Weight divisions are there for a reason. And I think that was just a very bad move for him. I don't think that was a good move. I think his speed, his precision gave him a chance in that fight, but this is where he belongs. And I think he's going to show that. It's hard for me to see him losing 2 straight. It really is. Whether it's in another division, it's just hard for me to see this guy losing 2 straight. I think Vettori is going to give him a hell of a fight. I think it's going to be a very close fight. But I think in the end, the more damaging strikes, the more damaging moments in the judge's eyes are going to be for Adesanya. So I'm picking him here. But from a DraftKings perspective, when you look at this, you got Adesanya 9,300 and you got Vettori at 6,900. Now, I do want to explain something to you. For those that do get my article and read it, I do something called Hedge Weight. So basically what it is, I take a 10 lineup system and I tell you how many people I am going to inject in that lineup, in those lineups, in those 10. If I have somebody winning the fight, but the value is on the other guy, you might see the hedge weight up on the guy that I didn't pick to win. DraftKings is completely different. So when you look at this, you look at Adesanya has hit the 100-plus point mark 5 out of 10 times. Okay, he's hit his current market value. Now I started this thing with current market value. Current market value is his price right now. How many times has he hit his current price? So this is something that I also give to the subscribers. So his current market value right now is 5 of 10. So he's hitting both at a 50% clip at 9,300. Not bad. 50%. You have a 50-50 chance to hitting value if he wins. When you look at Vettori, 6,900. Now you can't get construed by the pricing here. You got to remember he's 6,900. That's a punt play. So hitting that value isn't that difficult. Okay, but he's hit the 100-plus point mark 4 out of 10 times, which is 40%. And his current market value is 6 of 10. So he's hitting punt play value at 6 of 10 times, which is 60%. That's really what you're concerned with when you got a guy that cheap. You're not so much concerned with his 100-point value. You're more concerned with the current market value, what he's hitting it at. And he's hitting it at a 60% clip. Now, a 5-round fight, guys are bigger. He's not that fast. He's not that, doesn't throw a lot of volume. So it's not like, the Moreno fight where in a 5-round fight, if they're throwing haymakers, he might be able to come close to covering that value. He's not going to cover that value in a loss. But if he does win the fight, he does have a 60% chance of hitting the current market value, which I do think I bumped that up a little bit because you got to remember there are 3-round fights added into there. My hedge weight on this fight, and then we're going to get into the other stuff. My hedge weight on this fight is I'm going for Izzy, and I'm going to go 3 Marvin. You don't have to utilize all your lineups. You don't. You got to remember, like, if this was a normal card with a very good main event, and then the rest were 3 rounds, you don't have to, you tend to go 8 to 9, 8 to 10 rounds. This one, you don't have to do it. You're going to scatter yourself all over the board in this. You got 3 5-round fights here. You have the Nate Diaz fight, which is the first fight 5 rounds. That's not a title fight and not a main event. So you got 3 5-round fights here. All these fights are completely mispriced. All right, and that's what I really want to jump into. First, I want to talk to you a little bit about how do you pick your tournaments or your cash games, and what is the difference? This is all predicated on what your bankroll is. That's basically what this is predicated on. If you are a high money player and you use the Fantasy Labs optimizer, okay, and you're doing 150 lineups, then obviously you're going into these tournaments with 20,000 people, 10,000 people, and you're running your optimizer, you're getting your 150 lineups, and you're shooting it out. If you are running, say, $100 in a night, you got to be a lot more strategic with your gameplay. So what do you want to do? Do you want to double your bankroll? Or do you want to go for the gusto? I'm the type of person where I believe in building your bankroll slowly. Building your bankroll from whatever you could start. If you want to start at 500, you start at 500, you build it to 1,000. You build it to 1,500. And then little by little, you're going to go into these other tournaments. But to start off, and your best chances are always going to be the smaller tournaments. Remember, I can take you to the deli right now. We can go play the lottery, and I can say, "What do you want to do? Do you want to pick three, or do you want to play the Mega Million?" Your eyes are going to go right to the Mega Million. Everybody wants to hit that big cheese, right? It's just a dollar in a dream. But the logistical, the proper thing to do is to play the pick three straight in box. That's the proper thing to do because you have an opportunity to win three numbers straight or three numbers anyway. That's going to give you your best chance to win. If you want to run the Powerball and the Mega Million and stuff, go right ahead. But chances are it's 1 in 5, 10 million that you're going to win. So there's a greedy aspect to this game, and that's how DraftKings and FanDuel and all these companies make their money. They make their money off the greediness of people wanting more and more and more. If you're a smart player and you want to be a smart player, you're going to go into the single entries. You're going to go to the 3-entry maxes. You're going to go to the tournaments that don't have 20 and 30,000 people in them. Have I hit them tournaments before? Yes, I've had to hit them tournaments before. Has Anthony, my partner, hit those tournaments before? Yes. Have my subs? Yes. There was one time when we first opened up, I believe it was like in November, December, we had like 6, 7 guys take down the big tournament. That doesn't happen every day. It's been a grind since then. We're grinding and grinding. Some weeks we're up, some weeks we're down, but it's a grind. So if that's the way you want to play, if you want to play extremely volatile like that, that's on you. But if you want to have a steady state of cash flow, it's all about, picking the proper games. Now, if you really want to back yourself up, say you have a $500 bankroll, you don't have to play GPPs all the way through. You can play maybe $200 in GPPs and $200 in cash game. What is that going to do? The cash games are giving you a better chance now to back up your GPPs if you lose. So maybe you'll lose in your GPPs, but you'll win in your cash games, and now you didn't lose any money. So you played with free money at that point. It's so strategic the way building your lineups is no more strategic than picking the games that you play. It's a game and it's a science to kind of pick that, and it's a game and it's science to actually play. So you're playing 2 games in one. If you want to meet people and do head-to-heads, that's fine. But you got to remember, the majority of the players, and I'm sure, the people that are going to listen to this afterwards and a couple of people that are in here now, you're not high money players to the point where you're playing $5, $10, $15,000. I mean, when you see some of these guys on Twitter taking screenshots and posting them up, and you see all those little circles, and it says like $5,000 or $10,000, and it says, but entered 4,000, they only won 1,000. Think about how many times every week that they've done that. And only once in a while you see those screenshots. What does that tell you? It tells you no matter what they won, 20,000, 30,000, what about the 6 other weeks prior to that they were playing 5, 10, 15, 20, 5, 10, 15, $20,000? They're either just leveling out their money or they're still losing. But that screenshot looks good because, they put, they're showing that they won 10,000. So, you gotta play it extremely strategically. Don't waste your bankroll. It's okay to sit out once in a while. If you're not sure about a card, it's okay to sit out. It's fine to sit out one week. You know what I mean? Or it's fine to say, you know what? I usually play 500 this week. I'm going to play 100. But you got to pick and choose your games properly. And that's really what this game is about. If you really think about it, I always use Giant Stadium as an example. Picture Giant Stadium. Picture when Giant Stadium is packed. I don't know how many it holds, like 80,000, whatever it holds. But picture Giant Stadium completely packed. Now picture you going into Giant Stadium, sitting in your chair, and everybody has a ticket. All right, and they got to pick one person in that place to win $100,000. Say the tournament, $100,000. And then the 9 people after that, they're going to get 10, 20, 15, 9, 6. Then as soon as it hits number 11, 12, 13, there's such a drop-off, they're winning like $500. So if you're not in the top 10 of that bracket, in that entire stadium, you're shit out of luck. You know what the chances of that happening? I've been to so many games in my life. I've been to so many boxing matches in my life. So many, 50-50s. You know how many times I've won those fucking things? Practically, I've never had my name called in an arena. I've been to hundreds and hundreds and thousands of games. Never had my name called in a fucking arena. That's the chances you have. It's a fucking lottery at that point, especially in fighting. Especially in fighting when anything can happen. For you to assemble the perfect lineup. So what I'm saying is if you're going to enter these tournaments that have 150 max entries, okay, and you're only running 10 lineups or 5 lineups, think about this. Think about if one of those guys get knocked out by some fluke and you have 10 lineups in there, there's somebody, a max player, that's got 140 left. How are you supposed to beat that? You got another 140 left, which means you got a certain amount of shots because your bankroll is smaller to hit that. But now this guy's got 140. So it's basically, think about going into a fist fight with 10 guys versus 150 guys. It's hard to win that fight. It's very hard to win that fight. So you got to pick your games in your budget, and don't worry about if you won 500,000 or you won 500. If you win, you win. That's all that matters. You enjoyed the fight, you won some money, you built your bankroll for next week, and then little by little, you're going to build your bankroll and you can go into these bigger tournaments. But I want you guys to start going in there and saying, listen, I'm going to go into single entries, I'm going to go into 3 max entries, and then I'll take a couple plugs up top just to see what happens, and then I'll go into some cash games to back myself up. That's the proper way to play. Another question I get often is about pricing mismatches from a DraftKings perspective. So this is a perfect example, this card. I mean, this card is completely mismatched all over the place. I don't agree with 90% of the pricing here. And this is a very difficult card. It's a very, very difficult card. And the reason why it's so difficult is because there's going to be a punt play on this card that comes out. And I'm going to tell you guys that right now. I've averaged these. I've been doing this on this scale with fantasy sports and MMA. I've been doing MMA since I was boxing MMA since I was 12 years old. But this right here, I've been doing for a good 8 to 9 years, professionally within company guidelines. And I have noticed on an average, there's usually around 2 to 2.5 dogs that come in per card. Okay. And some of them are crazy value, but some of them are. And punt plays usually heavy punt plays. It's usually like one every 2 or 3 cards. You'll see like a major punt play come out. This card is going to be different. One of the dogs that come out on this card will be a punt play. I don't know which one it's going to be, but it's resonating that way. And it's the way DraftKings does it. It's almost like they want to bait you into taking certain fights. They want to bait you into taking this. They want to make it difficult. They want to make it difficult for you. They're not going to make it easy. They don't want to give you money. Who wants to give you money? This is why casinos are fucking built. This is why Atlantic City and Vegas is built. It's built on our money. Why? How do you think they can afford to give you free food? And they can afford to give, because it's built on our money. They're not going to make it easier for you. So you got to outfox the fox. You got to find these pricing mismatches that don't look right. And when they don't look right, you got to jump into the mind of the casual fan, or try to think about what these people are thinking. Somebody like Nate Diaz, for instance. Let's say you're a huge Nate Diaz fan. Okay, and you see that price at 6,900. You also got to look at that a little bit and say, hold on a second, he's like a public figure. I mean, if you saw him during the weigh-ins and everything, it's like he's almost like the main event. So a lot of people are going to maybe jump on Nate Diaz. So do I jump on him too in a large field GPP? Or do I either avoid this fight totally or go the other way? You got to outfight. You can't ride in cash games. That's what you have to do. You got to ride with the sheep. But in GPPs, you got to stray away a little bit. So if you see a pricing mismatch that you see is going to, even though you think they're going to lose, if you see a pricing mismatch, sometimes you're going to go in there and you're going to stab it, but sometimes you're going to go heavier the other way because you're like, you know what? I can see why people are going to jump on this guy or jump on this girl. And I'm expecting her to be a little bit more highly owned, or him a little bit more highly owned. So to wipe this out, I'm either going to stay away from it or I'm going to jump to the other side, and I'll get a small taste just to run with the crowd. So it's a game. It's a game within a game. And I can't explain that to you guys enough. You got to look for the pricing mismatches, because that is going to tell the tale of the entire night. And I can't express to you guys enough that the fights, these games, are won and lost in the middle. They are won and lost in the middle. The middle tier guys are won and lost in the middle. I have, subscribers of mine that they blow me away sometimes, the way they put these lineups together. And we all do it together. Like, listen, I give the content and I do the metrics and I talk to them, and that's all fine and great. But they have taken like the foundation of what we created, and they just like transcend with it. It's actually amazing to see what the lineups that some of these people construct, these little formulas that they do on paper, and then they'll put them in our Discord. It's pretty incredible. So that's what you got to do. You got to start really jumping in the minds of the other players and saying, well, what are the masses going to do? Because if the masses are going to do this, and there's 30,000 people in this tournament, I got to kind of either jump the other way or I got to lay off this fight and just sit back and see what happens. See if they step on a landmine. So you got to get dangerous. You got to get dangerous. And you know what? Some nights it's going to pay off, and some nights it's not going to pay off. If we all won every weekend in this, we would all be fucking millionaires. And it's just not the case. So strategic play, win in the middle. You got to remember too, a card like this, there's a lot of casuals. A lot of people watching this video later on when they watch the rerun, they're not casuals. They're in it, but they're going either right to the top or right to the bottom. They're going after the Diaz's. They're going after the big names, the Izzies, the Vittoris. They're going after all the big names, and they have no idea who these people in the middle are. That's where you come in. That's where the educated player comes in. That's where you get these low-owned players, these low-owned fighters, and you jack them into your lineup, and you say, you know what, let the top go, let the bottom go, because you know what? If fucking Mark Vittori's 60% owned and he wins, I'm not going to move that much anyway. But if I go on someone like JoJo Calderwood or Lauren Murphy or something like that, and she's 12% owned and she wins and she gets a knockout, I'm going to jump the board quick. That's the way your mind's got to think. So start putting yourself in that mindset. Start putting yourself in another player's mindset and kind of try to checkmate them. Couple more things. As far as UFC betting, people ask me about wagers all the time. How do I, when is the right time to pull the trigger? I can't express it to you enough. There is no right time. To me, the right time is when it feels like the right time. You got a line that opens up crazy, right? And it opens up maybe a month before, 2 weeks before. You can pull the trigger on that fight, and then they can look like complete garbage in weigh-ins, or they can, the sharps coming in, that line just completely fucking moves the other way, or it moves more into your favor and you missed a good spot to hit it, or maybe you want to hit it again. So what I like to do is, when the lines initially come out, I don't ignore them. I look at them because I want to see where Vegas's head is at. That's what I do. I'm not big on metrics. When I started this 8 years ago, all these guys that were doing it at the time, it was all numbers. It wasn't about watching film. It wasn't about knowing what matchups. It was basically numbers. So when I came in here, it was all eye test, and it still is for me. I add metrics in because I think it's a good tool to have. It's a bonus, but the meat and potatoes of it is the eye test and what you know of the fighter, what you know about his camps, the relationships maybe you have with them. So when I see the initial line, the first thing I do is say, all right, Vegas is off or they're on. Doesn't matter which fight it is. I don't target one specific fight. I just want to see what line looks off, where Vegas's head's at. And whatever fight that I see that's a little bit off or it seems like a little bit odd, that's the one I'm going to keep an eye on for a couple days. I watch the line movement. You start watching the line movement. If it stays in one spot and you're kind of confident, you did your due diligence, you check their camps, who are they training, who's training with them, is anyone training for a fight as well, how's the morale in the gym, are they on a losing streak, are they on a winning streak? All that comes into play for me. And you just keep watching the line. And if you really like a line and you say, you know what, it's plus 140 right now, but I think I can get it at plus 150, I would be more comfortable with that, plus 160. You can wait and you can see if that line starts to creep. And if it starts creeping the other way consistently, then you know what, you throw the fucking white flag and you hit it. You throw the white flag and you hit it if you really feel comfortable with it. But there's really no right or wrong time. I know people that wait sharps, very big sharps, that wait last minute. They wait even way past the weigh-ins. They wait last minute before they plug. And then I know guys that jump on things and they'll do parlays for like UFC 263 and then a future fight, and they'll throw a parlay in for that. So there's really no right time. It's where you're comfortable. Me personally, I'm comfortable with tracking. I'm comfortable with, let me look at the slate when it comes out. Let me see if I see anything off in Vegas. And then if there's two fights on that card that seem off to me, those are the ones I'm going to watch. Something is up with Vegas. They're either trying to trap you or they're just completely off on the line. You also got to remember, a lot of these guys, they're numbers guys. They're very good. Vegas is very good at what they do. But they will look at a 2-fight and 3-fight losing streak sometimes, and they will hold too much merit to that, not understanding that maybe the guys that they fought were very low-level guys, or a 3-fight winning streak. And they'll look at that and they'll add that into the line and not realize that, well, the 3 guys that he fought were on 3-fight losing streaks, so they're not good fighters. But now he's fighting this guy who's a better fighter. It's a better matchup. He can't fight. So Vegas isn't always right. They make mistakes too, but it's your job. It's my job. It's our job, if you want to take Vegas on, to find these holes. And once you find these holes, you're going to see them right away. As soon as those lines open up and you read the line, you're like, okay, same like McGregor and Habib came out again. okay, or Poirier or something. Any fight you guys like really think is a close fight and it's minus 230 or minus 240, like, hold on a second. This is what it's opening up at. I gotta watch this. Because if this goes up to minus 270 or minus 280, I'm gonna hit this. This is all value at that point. So that's what you got to do. Your eyes are going to recognize it right away. As far as the prop bets and stuff like that, you don't always have to take a prop bet on somebody you think is going to win. You don't. Somebody like Damian Maia, let's say, somebody like Damian Maia, who's 44 years old and his only path to victory is a submission, right? That's really his only path, unless your stand-up is terrible. Even though stand-up isn't that bad, but that's his go-to. That's his bread and butter. And you know what? The guy's a wizard on the ground, one of the best ever in MMA. So chances are, if he backpacks you, he's going to submit you. But if he's fighting a guy that's supposed to starch him and supposed to knock him out, but his submission prop is minus 600, and you still think he's getting knocked down and he's losing, I'm going to stab that plus 600 because there's value on Damian Maia by submission at that point. Even if it's small, you never know. Like that. So it doesn't always have to be who you think's going to win the fight. It has to be where the value is. You always play the value. If you always play who you think's going to win and not the offset of the line, you're going to lose majority of the time. But if you play the value of the line and look for the value bets inside and in between, that's where you're going to win. So you got to come up with your own formula. But the most important thing is that as soon as those lines come out, look at them. And if something draws to your eye and it goes right to it and says that is off, that's the line you need to watch. So, you guys got any questions for me? If not, I'm going to check out and I got to set lineups. All right, guys. Well, listen, thanks for joining me. We're going to do this much more. If you guys like the live stream and you like this pattern, and guys that are watching on the replay, let us know. I have no problems with doing this. I will also, if there's anyone in here that are subscribers of mine, we still have our live stream tomorrow, which is going to be very in-depth on every single fight. So I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for joining me. This is Madlab, madlabmma.com, brought to you by Fantasy Labs, and I'll talk to you soon.